Hello dear children, welcome back. I'm Dr. Jisha Joe. In this session, we shall discuss a few more important MCQs from the chapter Absorption by Roots, the processes involved. Okay children, so we are starting our discussion of the second part of the multiple choice questions from the chapter Absorption by Roots, the processes involved. First question, which is an example of Targa movement? Options are drooping of the leaves of touch me not, bending movement of sunflower towards sun, sleep movements of leaves of certain plants, all the above. So which is an example of Targa movement? What is meant by Targa movement? Targa movement is one of the uses of turgidity. Here you can see movement of plant parts as a result of changes in turgidity. Okay, so which is the correct answer? Which is the correct option? Here options are drooping of the leaves of touch me not, bending movement of sunflower towards sun, sleep movements of leaves of certain plants, all the above. So the correct answer is all the above. Also, the movement of the leaves of insectivorous plants while closing or opening during the entrapping of the prey is also an example of Targa movement. Okay, so the correct answer is all the above. Next question, state of a cell when it cannot accommodate any more water. Options are turgid cell, flaccid cell, plasmalized cell, deplasmalized cell. Okay, state of a cell when it cannot accommodate any more water. So what is that cell called? Turgid cell. Okay, cell in which cannot accommodate any more water is called as a turgid cell. Now, what is meant by flaccid cell? A cell has lost which has lost its turgidity, or cell which has shrunken, that is the protoplasm has shrunken due to the loss of water when placed in a hypertonic solution. That is a plasmalized cell. Another name for plasmalized cell is flaccid cell. And what is a deplasmalized cell? When a plasmalized cell is put in water, what happens? Water enters into the cell and the cell becomes swollen up, or cell swells up as a result of entry of water into the plasmalized cell. Such a cell is not called as a turgid cell but is a deplasmalized cell. Okay, hope you have understood what is meant by deplasmalized cell. So what is the correct answer? State of a cell when it cannot accommodate any more water. That is option A, turgid cell. Next question. A highly concentrated sugar solution will be A, hypertonic solution, B, isotonic solution, C, hypotonic solution, and D, neutral solution. A highly concentrated sugar solution means the amount of sugar in the solution is very high. That means such a solution is said to be a highly concentrated solution. Okay, so a highly concentrated solution will be, what type of solution will it be? It will be a hypertonic solution. Solution whose solute concentration is more is called as a hypertonic solution. So the correct answer is option A, hypertonic solution. Next question. The process by which molecules distribute themselves evenly within the space they occupy. Options are diffusion, exosmosis, imbibition, endosmosis. So the process by which molecules distribute themselves evenly within the space they occupy. What is that process called? The process is called diffusion. Okay, when we place a potassium manganate crystal in a beaker, what happens to it? It dissolves. Potassium permanganate crystal dissolves and it spreads throughout the entire water inside the beaker. So here what is actually taking place? The molecules distribute themselves evenly within the space they occupy. So this process is called diffusion. Okay, when a crystal of potassium permanganate is put in a beaker of water, what happens? The molecules of potassium permanganate gets distributed evenly within the water inside the beaker, and this process is called diffusion. What is exosmosis? That is the outward movement of water when from the cell when the cell is placed in a hypertonic solution. Okay, exosmosis take place when the cell is placed in hypertonic solution, and as a result of exosmosis, the cell becomes flaccid or plasmalized. Now, what is imbibition? Imbibition is the phenomenon by which dead or living plant parts absorb water by surface attraction. The water molecules are attracted onto the surface. So surface attraction is taking place here. Substances, as you can see, which are made up of cellulose or proteins, they have a strong affinity for water, and these substances imbibe water. Imbibition means the absorption of water by surface attraction. Okay, and the fourth option is endosmosis. What is endosmosis? The inward movement of water into a cell when the cell is placed in a hypotonic solution. So endosmosis occurs when the cell is placed in hypotonic solution. So what happens to the cell? The cell swells up, or the cell becomes turgid. So what is the correct answer? The process by which molecules distribute themselves evenly within the space they occupy. Answer is option A, diffusion. Okay. Next question, inward movement of water through the plasma membrane of a cell. We have already discussed it in the previous question. The answer is, options are, let us first have a look at the options. Osmosis, endosmosis, exosmosis, all the above. Question is, inward movement of water through the plasma membrane of a cell. It is specifically mentioned, it is the inward movement. So movement of water takes place into the cell. So that is called as endosmosis. Okay. So the correct answer is option B, endosmosis. Endosmosis is the inward movement of water through the plasma membrane of a cell. Next question, which among the following is correct with regard to a semi-permeable membrane? Okay, which is correct with regard to a semi-permeable membrane? Option A, it allows the passage of solvent molecules but not the solute. B, it allows the passage of solute molecules but not the solvent. C, it has minute pores. D, both A and C. So which is the correct option? Once again, it allows the passage of solvent molecules but not the solute. That is true. Semi-permeable membrane allows the passage of only solvent molecules. Only water molecules can pass through the semi-permeable membrane. It will not allow the solute molecules. So option A is correct. Look at option B. It allows the passage of solute molecules but not the solvent. So that is wrong. We have already found that is wrong. Semi-permeable membrane allows the passage of only solvent molecules. And option C, it has minute pores. That is very true. Semi-permeable has minute pores, and it is through these pores the solvent molecules are allowed to pass into the or pass through the membrane. So the correct answer is option D, both A and C. Next question, 22. Which among the following is a hypertonic solution? So we have seen what is a hypertonic solution. A solution whose concentration is much more than that of the cell sap, or a highly concentrated solution. So look at the options: pure water, distilled water, pond water, salt water. What is the answer? You might have got the answer. Correct answer is option D, salt water. Salt water is a hypertonic solution. Okay. Next question, which among the following is not a characteristic of roots for absorbing water? Which is not a characteristic of roots for absorbing water? Options are enormous surface area, B, cell sap is at a higher concentration than surrounding soil water, C, grows downward into the soil, D, thin cell walls of root hairs. Here the question is, which is not a characteristic of roots for absorbing water? So look at the first option, enormous surface area. That is surely a characteristic feature. This enormous surface area is due to the presence of large number of root hairs on the surface of root. So it actually enhances the absorption of water. So it is one of the characteristic of roots for absorbing water. Second is, cell sap is at a higher concentration than surrounding soil water. That is also true. The cell sap of roots is at a higher concentration than the surrounding soil water. So this enables the inward movement of water. Since the cell sap is highly concentrated, water moves from the soil solution or soil water into the root. Third option, grows downward into the soil. Okay, that is not a characteristic of roots for absorbing water. And D, thin cell walls of root hairs. That is also a character which enables the root in the absorption of water. The cell wall is thin and freely permeable. The thin and permeable membrane, thin and freely permeable cell walls help in the inward movement of water molecules. So, which is not a characteristic of roots for absorbing water? It is option C, grows downwards into the soil. The other three are characteristics of roots for absorbing water. Next question, in a plasmalized cell, the space between the cell wall and plasma membrane is filled with. So we know what is a plasmalized cell. When does a cell become plasmalized? When a cell is placed in hypertonic solution. What happens? Exosmosis will take place from the cell. Water moves out of the cell when the cell is placed in hypertonic solution. So as a result, the cell contents will shrink. Okay, the cytoplasm along with the cell membrane will get shrunken or will become ball-like structure inside the cell wall. The cell wall, since it is rigid, it remains like that, but the cell contents along with the cell membrane will shrink. And so that is a plasmalized cell. Now here the question is, the space between the cell wall and the plasma membrane is filled with. So as a result of this shrinkage of the cell contents away from the cell wall, a space is created there between the plasma membrane and the cell wall. What is actually present in this space? That is the question. Okay. Now look at the options. Options are hypotonic solution, water, hypertonic solution, isotonic solution. Did you find out the answer? What is the correct answer? It is hypertonic solution. How? Why? Because the cell has been placed in hypertonic solution. That is why the cell has become plasmalized. And since the cell wall is a freely permeable membrane, what will happen? The hypertonic solution will enter into the space between the cell wall and the plasma membrane. So the correct answer is option C, hypertonic solution. Okay, this is because of the freely permeable cell wall. Okay. Next question, the pressure by which water molecules tend to cross the semi-permeable membrane. What is that pressure called? Options are inhibition pressure, osmotic pressure, Targa pressure, and root pressure. We know what is inhibition pressure, pressure that is developed in the imbibant. Imbibant is a substance that imbibes water. Okay, so if suppose the seed is soaked in water, the seed swells up. The first step in seed germination is the imbibition of water, and as a result of this imbibition, what happens? A pressure is developed in the seed which causes the rupture of the seed coat, and as a result, the radicle of the embryo comes out first, followed by the plumule. So, imbibition pressure is the pressure that is developed in the imbibement as a result of imbibition. Now, what is osmotic pressure? Osmotic pressure is the pressure by which water molecules tend to cross the semi-permeable membrane. So, what is osmosis? We have seen what is osmosis before. What is osmosis? Osmosis is the movement of water molecules from a region of their higher concentration to a region of their lower concentration through a semi-permeable membrane. Now, what is osmotic pressure? Basically, osmotic pressure is the minimum pressure that must be exerted to prevent the passage of pure solvent into the solution when the two are separated by a semi-permeable membrane. So, the pressure by which water molecules tend to cross the semi-permeable membrane is actually what pressure is it? It is osmotic pressure. Okay, or we can say that osmotic pressure is the measure of the tendency of a solution to take in water by osmosis. Okay, now option C is Targa pressure. That is, what is Targa pressure? The pressure developed inside a turgid cell is a Targa pressure. The pressure exerted by the cell contents on the cell wall of a turgid cell is called as Targa pressure. And what is root pressure? The pressure that is developed in the cells of the root as a result of inward movement of water through the cells or through the root cells. Okay, so that is root pressure. Okay, the pressure that is developed in the roots as a result of cell to cell diffusion of water in the root, or cell to cell movement of water, or actually it is osmosis which is taking place between the cells of the root, which helps in which causes a pressure in the root which helps in the upward movement of water in the xylem. So that is root pressure. Now, what is the correct answer here? The pressure by which water molecules tend to cross the semi-permeable membrane is option B, osmotic pressure. So, I hope it is clear. Now, moving on to the next question. Leaves of a twig wilt when? Options are phloem is removed, xylem is removed, phloem is kept intact, xylem is kept intact. Leaves of a twig wilt when? When does the leaves wilt? When the leaves are not getting enough water. So, how does it happen? Look at the options. Phloem is removed, xylem is removed, phloem is kept intact, D, xylem is kept intact. So, which is the correct answer? Just think, when does the leaves wilt? When do the leaves of a plant wilt? It's because the leaves are not getting water. How does water reach the leaves? It is through the xylem. So, what is the correct answer? Correct answer is option B, xylem is removed. The leaves of a twig wilt when the xylem is removed. Next question. Potato cubes when placed in water become firm. This is due to, options are endosmosis, exosmosis, diffusion and active transport. Now, if you place a cube of potato in a beaker of water, after some time you can see that the potato cube will become very firm. This is due to the inward entry of water into the potato cube. So, what is that inward movement of water? Which is called as endosmosis. Okay, exosmosis, diffusion, all these we have seen in previous questions. What is active transport? Active transport is the movement of molecules from the region of their lower concentration to a region of their higher concentration. and this involves energy, the use of energy or expenditure of energy, because here the movement of molecules is taking place from their lower concentration to their higher concentration. That is the absorption of mineral elements or mineral ions in plants by the roots occur by the process of active transport. So here the correct answer is option A, end osmosis. Okay. Next question. The cause of guttation is osmotic pressure, root pressure, imbibition pressure, diffusion pressure. What is the answer? So, what is the cause of guttation? What is guttation? Guttation, in certain plants you can see that during the early mornings you can see tiny droplets of water along the margins of the leaves. Okay, this loss of water in the form of water droplets through specialized structures called hydrothots is called as guttation. So actually, what is the cause of guttation? It is root pressure which is the cause of guttation. The pressure that is developed in the root is the cause of guttation. Okay, the cause of guttation is, the correct answer is option B, root pressure. Next question. Plasmolysis occurs due to, we have already discussed a similar type of question before. Okay, what is the cause of plasmolysis? Options are endosmosis, exosmosis, diffusion, osmosis. Okay, plasmolysis, when does a cell undergo plasmolysis? When the cell is placed in a hypertonic solution. Okay, when the cell is placed in hypertonic solution, what is actually happening? Exosmosis is taking place. Water moves from the cell to the outside solution. So, as a result of this, the cell contents will shrink to a ball. So, when does plasmolysis occur? Plasmolysis occurs due to exosmosis. The correct answer is option B, exosmosis. Next question. We find difficulty in opening and closing wooden doors and windows during rainy season because of. Options are osmosis, diffusion, imbibition, plasmolysis. Can you guess the answer? We find difficulty in opening and closing wooden doors and windows during rainy season. During rainy season, we know the atmosphere is humid. It is filled with moisture, and what is the peculiarity of wooden doors and windows? They are actually formed of wood, which the basic component of wood is cellulose. So we have already seen cellulose is a hydrophilic substance. Hydrophilic substance means it has a strong affinity towards water. So what will happen? This cellulose, since it has a strong affinity towards water, and since the atmosphere is filled with moisture, or since the atmosphere is humid, there will be surface attraction of these water molecules. And the cellulose will attract the water molecules onto its surface, and this process is called imbibition. Okay, so the as a result of imbibition, the wooden doors and windows swells up. Okay, and as a result of the swelling, we find a difficulty in opening and closing wooden doors and windows. We all have experienced that. We are opening wooden doors and windows during rainy season. So this is because of imbibition. Okay, so the correct answer is option C, imbibition. Okay, so with that, we have come to the end of this session. I hope the session is clear to all of you. If you have any doubts regarding any of the questions which we have discussed here, please ask your doubts and give your suggestions in the comment section. Thank you.